Well, thank you very much. My name is Paul Dolphin. I'm a better building designer than I am IT guy. I'm going to talk about sustainability, livability, and resilience. Okay, so I'm just going to give you a bit about my background and what is sustainability. And then we're going to look at how we can incorporate livability and resilience into sustainable design. And then how you achieve a sustainable house and our order of priority. Okay, the first thing that we should always look at going back to is sustainable development. What is it? And this is the only time I'm going to read a quote. Sustainable development is development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. That was the original definition as defined by the Brundtland Commission many years ago. And it's always important to go back to this because I think people have sort of hijacked the word sustainability. There's been a lot of greenwash. There's also been a little bit of bad people have tried to sideline it by saying, oh, it's going to be expensive or it's not going to deliver what you want. It's really important to look at all three here. So we've got environmental, social, and economic. And look, a good example is, you know, if we were to design a building that's made out of mud brick, that's taken with the mud from the building site, then that's going to be the most environmentally sustainable you could do. But if it takes you 10 years to do because it's so labor intensive, your kids might have all grown up by then, so it's not very socially sustainable. Then if you decide to pay someone to do it, it might be so labor intensive that it's not economically sustainable. So we need to find a balance there. And that's sort of our philosophy where we've sort of found the middle way of sustainability, really. So my background, I've been interested in building design my whole life. And when I was at university, I was very interested in deep eco-design and using materials such as straw bales and rammed earth and lots of alternative things. Then I became a building surveyor and I surveyed 5,000 houses in the UK. And I realized that often when we have defects in buildings, it's when we're not using materials correctly. And that can often be the case when it's new materials or materials we don't fully understand. So I then use that knowledge to sort of think about how can we deliver sustainable design which doesn't cause defects, doesn't cause us future problems. And that's where really I came up with this idea of middle way eco design, where we use off-the-shelf products to achieve a sustainable building. And then more recently, my experiences in the 2020 bushfires really proved to me all the work we've done over the years and how sustainable design is also linked to resilient design. So just when we're talking about defects, here's a few photographs from the UK. This was when I was doing housing surveys. And this is just some extreme examples of defects. You can see in the back there is the gas meter, the electricity meter, and in one of them, the gas boiler. And you've got to wade through waist-high water to change a fuse, which is not ideal. Here we've got a blocked drain, which is causing rising damp. And here we've got a badly detailed shower screen, which is leaked, and you can see the kitchen down below. So defects usually mean water in the wrong place. These are in images of damp, and it's either water penetrating through the building fabric, rising damp, or interstitial damp. And so we really want to avoid those in our designs. And that's why we kind of use conventional materials to the best of our ability. So this idea of like the eco middle way, using conventional materials. And 20% of a building's energy is in its construction. 80% is in its running costs over its lifetime. So really, as long as we get a low energy building, it's not 100% crucial what we build it out of. Obviously, we want to encourage people to use materials such as WeatherTex, which is sustainable and has a low carbon footprint. And we want to encourage our manufacturers to keep moving in that direction. But if we can't get it off the shelf, then it's not the end of the world. We don't have to go to the nth degree to look at our products. Livability. So livability is another way of, it's sort of the social side of sustainability, really. And it's kind of the side that sort of got forgotten for a little while. But, you know, we can encourage our clients, or if you're out there looking at a building design, you know, livability is how you're going to experience that building. And with the pandemic in the last, you know, year and a half, it's been quite critical how we live and experience our buildings. You know, so really, in simple terms, cool in summer, warm in winter, and it meets the occupants' needs. You know, clean air, good cross ventilation, zero VOCs or low VOCs. You know, all those things. Natural light, how you feel in the space, they all count towards sustainability. Then the next side of sustainability is resilience. We often weigh up sustainable decisions against economic paybacks. If I put solar panels on and a battery, how many years is it going to pay me back? We don't really think about that when we think about our nice kitchen bench or fancy taps, you know. So it's strange that we apply that economic logic to sustainable measures only, and not some of our other choices. Whereas actually, if we think about them in terms of livability and in terms of resilience, it can be very beneficial. So we lived through the fires burnt to our front door and around those trees that you can see in that image. They were all burnt in the fires. We had close to 6 weeks with intermittent power. We still get intermittent power. And we have 6 kilowatts of solar with a 7 kilowatt battery, which has an EPS system. So it's got an emergency power supply. So throughout that time, our fridge was running. We had power to charge our phones so we could look at the RFS mapping and get all the latest news. And, you know, we had cold milk for tea during the day and cold beer in the evening, which is pretty much all you need to get yourself through a catastrophic fire event like that. And then livability in terms of resilience in a pandemic. You know, we have been incredibly fortunate that we are living in a sustainable house through this period. So, you know, we have a home office space, food from the garden. Thinking about those shared spaces and the private spaces, you know, you can have a child working at the kitchen bench while you're cooking, but equally we need private spaces so everyone doesn't get on top of each other. And also don't forget, our house costs nothing to run. So, you know, if our incomes dip a little bit, it's less stressful for us. A sustainable house doesn't cost more. All you need really for a sustainable house is a sustainable building designer and a sustainable builder. Okay, I'm going to fire very quickly through our order of priority, what we think is what we would tackle. I have to say this is specific to relatively mild climates in Australia. I think if you were watching this from the UK, Sweden, Canada, then space heating would be a lot further up. It would be probably, you know, somewhere around 2 or 3, really. Absolute crucial thing is solar orientation. So in the southern hemisphere, we're orientating to the north, and the opposite in the other hemisphere. Even in the UK, you can have a fully solar passive house with no active heating or cooling. You know, our house is 90% solar passive. We have a wood heater which goes on half a dozen times a year, and you can see the shading working really well. This is a winter photograph, and this is another winter photograph here. The next thing is thermal mass. Thermal mass works like a hot water bottle. In winter, you charge it up with heat, and then it's going to keep you warm through the evening. In summer, it works like an ice block. You put an ice block in your esky, it keeps your food cool all day. Double glazing. Double glazing is really important. It reduces convection. So when we feel air movement over our skin, cools us down, even if the air temperature doesn't drop. That's how fans work. So actually, double glazing is really important and good window fixtures, because it actually stops air movement, and that works towards livability as well. Roof insulation, wall insulation is important, but just remember there's a diminishing return on that. If 1 foot of insulation stops 95% of the heat loss, then another foot stops 95% of 5%. So there is a diminishing return. More is not always better, or you won't get your money back, basically. Water heater, we would always recommend heat pumps. Not sure if I can say the brand, but we would always recommend heat pumps. Coupled to solar PV, very efficient way of doing it. Space heating, if you need it, a wood heater is good, but there are issues with particulates. If you can link your space heating to solar PV and then to a heat pump, I think that's the way to go, whether it's underfloor or radiators. And that is me all done. So remember, when you're thinking about sustainable design, consider the economic aspects and the social aspects. Consider livability, particularly with pandemic design, and resilience as well. You know, you don't have to be living in a bushfire prone area to be having power cuts, to be having storms, to be having extreme weather events. And yeah, sustainable design can help you with all these. And also, if you have a house that doesn't cost you anything to heat or cool, it'll take you 10 or 15 years less to pay your mortgage off. So that's pretty good. And that's me all done.
Thanks very much for that, Paul. So I'm sure that a lot of people got great information out of your presentation today. So just wondering, how far across Australia do you design yourself?
Well, we design mostly in southern New South Wales.
Okay. And so what's the feedback from you as a designer for other designers in relation to the promotion of this type of design, where you're not just a standard designer that's going to go and meet a client. You have obviously a lot greater skill sets, and you're passionate about this. How would you, I guess, for a student that's coming on or somebody starting their business, what would you recommend to them to start to get that creative thinking like yourself?
So I think the yourhome.gov.au website is go and buy the book from that is absolutely essential. I think the course that the BDA ran a few years ago, the Sustainability Design Specialist course, is brilliant. Yeah, and you know, clients want this even if they don't realize they want it, because they want it for low energy bills, or they want it for sustainability, or they want it for you know, it's we can just incorporate it into everything we do, really.
Perfect. We've got a question there, and it says, how much insulation did you have on your wall?
Walls were just pretty standard, so I think it's about 2.4. And we specified, I think it was 5.1 in the ceilings, but the supplier ran out of that, so they gave us 6 instead, which was good.
Oh, bonus.
For the same price. So that was a bonus.
So Dick Clark's put a comment out there, never trust the software.
Never trust the software. Yeah. I knew I was too confident today. I hadn't practiced it. I was too confident.
Well, that's all good. No, it's very, very good. So thank you once again for your presentation today, Paul. If anyone's got any questions, if Paul is staying on the line, put them into the chat feature there on the bottom of your screen. You'll see the little chat box, and on the right, you click that, and on the right hand side, you'll be able to put in any of your questions. So Dick's just going, he didn't type that. So and he's obviously saying yes to the SDS masterclass. So thanks, Paul. Is your passive house level?
Oh, so is it passive house? No, it's not a passive house design. It's a solar passive design. So there's a big difference there.
Perfect. So I'm just seeing if there's any more questions coming in. High performance, that's the same question in both areas. Understood. So Paul, thank you once again.